Press record.
I can see the record button.
Yes, and by the way, we should be live. Let me see. Now, people know me already. They're probably going to have a good laugh because it takes a moment before before I actually acknowledge that I'm on. But oh yes, we're on. So are we? Yeah, wonderful. Okay, let's just give it a few more moments for whoever wanted to connect. Just want to see us also on this one. Could we do that? Yes, we can. Wonderful. Yes. Hello, Mirella. Hello, Antonella. Yes, we are on. Well. Hello, everybody. Super mega excited to be here with you all this evening. And yes, hello, Mirella. Oh, I forgot to put the volume down, but the phone reminded me. So, hello, everyone. Welcome to this live interview on Bridges of Light International. And by the way, thank you for being with us. You that is going to be with us for this hour. You that is watching this whenever else. Thank you, Bridges of Light International, and thank you, Live. And tonight, particularly, I'm very excited because I've got Christine King here with me. Hello, Christine. Thank you so much for accepting.
Hello, Luca.
To be here. I'm mega super excited because, well, one of the reasons why I am a metaphysical counselor is because Christine King actually founded the Metaphysical Society for the Expansion of Consciousness, and literally created, but she's going to tell us whatever she wants to tell us about it. She created the opportunity to people to train and to become metaphysical counselors in the United Kingdom. And of course, nowadays we know that with the technology, basically and truly worldwide. So I'm ultra honored. And also she's going to be talking to us about spiritual surrender, how to trust your soul to lead the way. But as always, you know me, I've been talking too much already. And I'm gonna let Christine talk. Thank you again. And I always ask everybody, all my guests, one question. Tell us who you are, and but what it's always desiring to know it. What brought you here? What brought you to do what you're doing now? And by the way, I can see hello Wendy, hello Mary, hello May. Hello, everyone. And I stopped because otherwise I could spend the whole hour to say hello to you. So,
hello, everyone. Good to be here and good to interact with you. So, Luca, you want to know how we got into the Metaphysical Society situation and how that came about?
yes.
It was a gradual process, really, because I started out in hypnotherapy. I trained as a hypnotherapist and gradually unfolded a lot of the other aspects of spirituality, but that was the very first thing that I got into. And then I started to train in other things. So I started to train in healing, and I trained with a lovely lady who at the time was in her 90s, but so full of life, Lily Cornford. And she trained me and other people in the art of hands-on color healing. So I got into that for quite a while, and I practiced that on people where I suppose you would call it channeling nowadays, but really it was tuning in to the higher forces of light and allowing color to flow through your hands. And you would have different colors for different conditions, and there are about a dozen so of different types of color healing that you would do. And you would just lay your hands on somebody and be guided to put the color into various points which I realize now were acupuncture points,
Mhm.
that were energy centers in people. So there were about 22 energy centers within us. And so you would put a different color into those energy centers according to what the condition was that the person wanted help with. But I also trained at the College of Psychic Studies because I had a lot of psychic experiences previously to my studying hypnotherapy that kind of led me along this path. My husband died, and I kept having what I suppose you would call them apparitions of him. And I had to get people to help me with that because I thought that something was going wrong with my mind. But it turned out to be very real. And they came to my home. And for the first time, I didn't have any kind of impression of him, but they did. And they went through lots of different things to prove that this was so. And then told me that you're supposed to do this type of work. And I said, what type of work that is that? And they said, spiritual work. And I said, I don't want anything to do with spirituality. That's not where I want to go in my life at all, because I was brought up in Orthodox Catholic religion, which I had rebelled against very strongly. And I found that I think it's very different now, but at that time there was a lot of shame around different things and a lot of stuff going on that was really feeding a sense of unworthiness. And this gave me lots of problems and lots of self-esteem issues. I was quite a confident person, but I didn't really have any self-worth. So why I got into hypnotherapy was having hypnotherapy myself to help me through all those things. And then gradually, as the years went on, these other things unfolded. So to cut a long story short, it was really these people, I think they were mediums and one was a healer, and they knew nothing about me, and they gave me all this information and information about my life and why I was here and what my mission in life was. But I wasn't really prepared for that. And I really rebelled against it, especially the word spiritual. To me, it smacked of Orthodox religion, and I'd come out of that and didn't want anything to do with it. But gradually, I was led to hypnotherapy and then the healing, the hands-on healing. And then somebody said to me, oh, there's a talk going on in London with the science of mind. So I thought, oh, I wonder what that's about. And they said, I think you'll like it because it's all about creating your own reality from your thoughts, and that you can create the life that you want. I thought, that's for me. I'd like to go and see that. So I went along, and it was something very new at the time. It was a lady called Nona Coxhead Bell, and she was running classes. She'd been in America and she had come over to England. She was actually English herself. So she'd come back to England with the intention of running metaphysical classes. At that time, metaphysics really wasn't heard of in this country under that kind of title. So I went along and thought, I think I'd like to join this group, because she was setting up a small group here, but she only took 12 people. So I asked if I could join it, and she said the class was full and I couldn't join. So I was going to America at the time, so I couldn't understand, because I felt instinctively that the metaphysical road was the road for me. It just felt right. So I went all the way to the States, and I stayed with a cousin of mine, or my aunt, and my cousin, her daughter, was already living out there, and they did a dinner party for me. And they invited me to the dinner party with about 6 friends. And who do I sit next to but somebody who goes to Science of Mind classes in America?
Uh-huh.
And I thought, this is weird, all the way out there. And I sit next to somebody. And I said to her, oh, that's a real coincidence, because I've been trying to get into a metaphysical class, which the foundation of is the Science of Mind teachings. And I can't get into it. So it's very strange that I'm sitting next to you, a complete stranger, and you tell me that. And she said, well, would you like to come along to a meeting? So I went along. It was in Los Angeles. And my goodness, it was absolutely packed with hundreds of people. And I remember it was Christmas time, because instead of having an altar, they have this big, is it the Poncietta plant, you know, the one that's all red and green. It was enormous, and it stretched right up to the ceiling. I always remember being very impressed with this, because it was like gave off a wonderful healing energy. And I went to that meeting, and then I went to a couple of others in Los Angeles. And the more I went there, the more convinced I was that metaphysics was for me. And I couldn't understand why I couldn't get into this group. And just before I was leaving to come back to England, they threw another party. And I went to it, and there were a lot more people at this party. And when I was at the party, a woman came along, and she sat by the side of me, and she said to me, I have a spiritual message for you. So I said, oh, right, okay. And she said, there's a book that you must have. And this book is very important, because it will lead you to where you need to be. I didn't understand what she was talking about. I said, well, where do I find this book? She said, you need to go to a bookshop in Los Angeles called the Bodhi Tree. And it was a massive metaphysical bookshop. It was enormous. There were shelves and shelves everywhere of these books. So obviously I went there, and well, first of all, I said to her, well, what's the name of the book? Because I thought that would be a whole lot easier. And she said, it's not being given to me. You must search for it. I said, well, how am I going to search for it? You know, even more so when I got there and I saw the vastness of this place. I thought, my goodness, how on earth am I going to find this book, whatever it is, there? And as it happens, I realized afterwards, I went into the wrong entrance, in inverted commas. I went into the used bookshop part of it. And as I went in there, of course, all the books were used books. So I stood in the middle and I thought, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to find the book? And I thought, I'm going to have to be guided to it in some way. And I looked up on the shelf, and there was this enormous book there, and it had, you know, sort of gold binding and everything. So my ego said, that must be the book for me. You know, it's big and it's going to contain lots of wisdom, whatever. As I got one of those little stools to reach up to get that big book down. And as I did, I dislodged another little book. And that fell to the ground. And I thought, I don't want that book. I want that big book. If it's important, it's got to be a big book. And so then something made me pick up the one on the floor that had fallen down. And I picked it up, and it had landed face down so that the back of the book was readable. I looked at the back of the book, and I saw that it was written by a lady called Louise Hay, and it said she had trained with the Science of Mind, or Science of Mind International, one of the names that they'd given it in America. And I thought, this is getting weirder and weirder, you know. And so I looked in the book and I saw the things that it contained, and I thought, this must be the book for me. It was the very famous book now, You Can Heal Your Life, but it was not available in England at that time. So I had this copy that I brought back to England, and I got very much into the book while I was on the plane coming back. And I thought, I can't understand why I cannot get into that course. And when I got home, the first thing that I saw on the mat was a letter from Nona Cox-Head-Bell, who was running the course, saying somebody had dropped out of the course. Would I like to join? And I thought, oh, great. I've been all around the world to come back, and there's the place. You know, it seemed ludicrous to me. But I mean, I've written an article about it since, saying that your soul always knows your destiny. And I really do believe that we have a destiny in terms of what we came here to do. And there are signs all along the way. We don't necessarily have to follow those signs, but if we do follow them, they lead us to where we need to be. So that was my first kind of opening to the metaphysical teachings. So I went along, and it was actually a 3-year course. And every week, it was every week for 3 years. And I studied it. But in the meantime, I started to teach small classes from the Louise Hay book. And then it started to be available in this country, and it got more well known. And as we know, you know, it's an enormous bestseller now. You know, everyone that's kind of into spirituality heard of Louise Hay, but I don't know whether they know the origins, because she actually studied with my teacher's teacher, which was like another link as well. But the Science of Mind teachings were more in depth, and they were a lot more difficult to understand. And then I started to run some classes with people, and just little mini classes. And then people said, will you teach us metaphysics? And I said, well, I can, but you know, if you're wanting to train professionally, I can't really give you that training in terms of giving you a diploma or certificate, anything like that. And they said, we don't care. We just want to come to the classes and we want to learn. Will you teach us? So by this time, I had quite a collection of names and addresses. There were no emails then. It was all like snail mail and sending people paper things in the post and getting their addresses and possibly their telephone numbers, no mobile phones, and letting them know that I was going to start classes in metaphysics and I was going to do a foundation course and put that out. And the first time I put it out, I got 48 people wanting to come to the course, and I hadn't even written it then. And I tried to get premises around where I lived, which was in London at that time, and I couldn't find anywhere that fitted in with the dates that people could do. So I ended up running the whole thing in my flat, which fortunately was a very large Victorian flat, but it didn't take 48 people. So I ended up dividing it up into 2 separate courses. And it went on from there. So I would write the course probably 2 nights before. I would present it on the weekend. Then when the next part came, I would write that, and it went on and on like that. So once I'd done one thing, people said, can you do some other things? So I went on, and then I thought, well, perhaps we could get this accepted by a kind of, or I suppose I was thinking it was like an orthodox acceptance of what we were doing. So I approached the Institute of Complementary Medicine, as it was known then, and they turned the course down. They said that they didn't really know what I meant by the metaphysical ideas and everything else like that. So I kept trying and coming back to them, and no, they said they couldn't accept it. And then I wrote to them and said, well, I'm withdrawing the application. And then they said, why? I said, because I seem to be pushing. I remember saying to them, I feel like I'm pushing a great big snowball up Mount Everest with my nose. They found this very amusing, and they said, "Oh, please don't give up. We just need a bit more explanation." And I thought, how much more explanation can I give? And anyway, one of the directors said, "Well, let me come down and interview these people that you have been training." So I had about 25 people. I hired the local hotel. This gentleman came down. He's no longer alive now, but he was one of the founders of the Institute of Complementary Medicine. And he came down and he interviewed these people, that the group that I trained. I think there were 25 people there. And he was supposed to come down for half an hour, and he was there for 2 hours. And he kept asking them different questions and how they would handle this and how they would handle that. And they gave him the answers from the teachings. And he said, "Well, I'm extremely impressed." He said they all seem to know what they're talking about. There's no question that they haven't been able to answer. "I'm really feeling good about this." And I was a bit jaded by that time. And I just said, "Yes, Michael, but are we in or are we out?"
Cut the chase.
Yeah. And he said, "You're in." And that's how we got it accepted. And that's how it went from there. So we could then give people a qualification.
Fantastic.
So then it went on from there, and it's expanded. And then people started to say, "Can I, not just a practitioner, can I teach this?"
Yes.
And then that was another step forward. And then obviously the teachers started running their own groups.
Yes.
And then they trained people who also wanted to train. So it kind of mushroomed. I always say to people, that wasn't me. I used to think it was me. My ego wanted it to be me.
Yes.
But it was actually a divine unfolding, because I could never have thought that up.
Yes.
I just had, when those people said to me, "You're meant to do this spiritual work," I had no idea that that's what they meant. But they said to me, "You can either go in one or two directions." And I was in a very unhealthy relationship at the time. And they said, "You can either go that way in your life, you have a choice." And my husband came through to them while they were there, and he said, "I'm holding a key. She can either go that way and be forever oppressed,
Yes.
or she can go that way and have the most marvelous career." And I obviously chose that way. But I didn't know what they were talking about. Then they kept saying to me, "You're very psychic, you're very mediumistic, but you're not working as a medium, but you're using your ability to help people with their mind, and also with this idea that life goes on and that we're here for a purpose." And they said that that's part of the purpose, but I didn't know what that entailed.
Yes.
And I was very resistant to it. But it was almost like something took me over and led me. I won't say that it was all uphill and going wonderful in terms of higher and higher in awareness. No, it wasn't. It was down dips, up, straight on a line, down dips, up higher, all those things. Very challenging. And there were times when I questioned it and sort of ranted at the universe that things weren't working the way I wanted them to work. But every time I thought of moving in a different direction, there's something in me kept moving me back to where it needed me to be.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I just have some comments that I would like to read, because I always like to engage whoever is participating to the live. And also I have a question for you, but also for everybody who's watching this. Please, if you have any questions, write them down in the comments and I'll read them for Christine. This is a great opportunity we have to ask her whatever but I have one, but I just want to read the comments because I always love the sharing, and I like you to see what uh, people write. Oh, Debbie's writing, yes, our soul always knows the way. And Valentina is writing, the point is to understand what's our destiny and work for that. What is our destiny and work for that? And Wendy asked, Christine, did you bring the Heal Your Life book to the UK?
No, I didn't. It was obviously something that Hay House, well, it wasn't Hay House then. Louise Hay founded Hay House.
Of course, you're right. We think of Hay House.
Yeah, that's right. But obviously the destiny of the book was to be worldwide. So I think that was already in the pipeline, but nobody had heard of it when I had that book. And I started to tell people about it. And that in those days, I sound like I'm about 150 years old, don't I? But in those days, it's hard for people to imagine that the metaphysical world was very different to now, especially on the internet. You could not get the books in this country. There was a tiny little bookshop in East London or near Essex, which was called Fowler's. And as far as I knew, it was the only metaphysical bookshop in England. And they had to import all the books from other places. So when started to training people, one of the basic books was The Science of Mind. And I used to have to get shipments from America to Fowler's. They would order the books, and 6 weeks later, the books would arrive. So as we gradually went through and used more and more books in the course, had to get them all from America.
Ah, yes, yes.
Couldn't get them in England.
Yes.
So I didn't bring it. I may have brought a copy.
Yes. But you did bring metaphysics, though.
I think it was already
Usually.
somewhere mushrooming in not Eastbourne. I can't remember on the coast. That there is a lady that was connected with the Science of Mind, who was running the classes, I think, after Nona Coxhead Bell. So there was somebody, oh, forgive me, she's quite an important lady and I have forgotten her name, but Debbie will probably know.
Yeah, I think if still, and by the way, hello, Debbie. Debbie is saying, I remember that meeting in ISNM.
Yes.
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 I think the meeting you were talking about when they were interviewing people.
Yes.
Debbie's right in Bournemouth.
Oh, Bournemouth, that's correct. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was another branch, if you like. Yeah. So I think that to answer that question about did I bring it to England, I only brought the copy to England. But after that, obviously the publishers must have had plans for it to come to England, and then it coincided with that. And then of course it took, well, England by storm, really, or Great Britain by storm, because it made things very simple to understand.
Yes.
Whereas the Science of Mind teachings can be
quite
challenging, because they were all in that old-fashioned style of writing.
Yes. True.
So Louise Hay opened that door and got more and more people interested at that level of understanding. So I think if we can describe it perhaps as a triangle, and the base of the triangle got longer, and therefore more and more people filled the triangle because of that simplistic understanding. Yes.
Thank you. Thanks. Oh, hello, Marina. Hello, Gaetano. Oh, Gaetano says hello. Gaetano Vivo is the founder of Bridges of Light.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Bridges of Light International. Hello, Gaetano. He
Hello
had the
there.
opportunity to be here because he founded this. So
Wow.
I have many people here. I'm surrounded to people to be grateful
Yes.
for.
I saw something like, was it, you got 16 million members?
He's got, no, I think it's 17,000. No, I
Oh,
don't know.
is it? Oh, I don't know what
Yeah,
I'm reading.
I'm not sure.
Maybe it's a prediction.
It's good. Yeah, bro. Hopefully, yes. Hopefully, absolutely. Hello, Mel. Mel says hello. And
Hello, Mel. Okay. And I wanted to go back to that lady that asked about destiny.
yes.
What was the question? I didn't get the end, the tail end of the question.
It wasn't really. It was almost like a statement. He says, she wrote, the point is to understand what's our destiny and work for that.
Okay.
But I would ask you the question, if anybody is wondering, how would you suggest that people could understand what their destiny is? In other words, how do you think that people that they don't really know, let's say, what they're here to do, what's their life purpose, if we can call it that way?
Yeah. Well, I think overall, our life purpose for everybody, and I think we teach this in the metaphysical teachings, is to express our divine nature. The way that we do it is often by the methods that takes place. You know, people think our soul's purpose is our job, but in actual fact, our soul's purpose is much broader than that. It's a spiritual purpose, and everyone has a spiritual purpose of some kind. And I think it's Marianne Williamson that says everybody's on a spiritual path, but not everybody knows it. So we all come, I believe, into this incarnation with a soul purpose to evolve in some way, to understand, to unfold. So I believe that we come in with various aspects of who we have been before, expressing in our humanness. And as we come in with that, we bring it in with us as part of our soul's curriculum. So I think every soul that comes or incarnates has a curriculum of some kind, and within it is the true soul's purpose. And so there's an aspect of us that knows that purpose, that is always, my earlier teachers, like Paul Solomon, who's no longer in this flesh body, he was one of my early teachers, and he used to teach this idea that we have an inner teacher, which we could refer to as the soul or the spirit or the essence of who we are. And that teacher is always trying to guide us on our soul's curriculum path. But we have free will. So we can veer off of it. We can decide not to stay on that path. And maybe we don't always fulfill our soul's destiny, but we always get another chance. And I don't believe that any life is ever wasted, because even when we go down so-called wrong paths, or paths that perhaps it wouldn't be wise from a human point of view to go down, it's all grist for the mill, so they say. It's all important because we're always learning and unfolding. So I think every soul comes in with that knowledge within them, and that what we can do is we all come to a point of awakening in this lifetime. Something wakes us up to the idea that, hey, I'm not just this physical self. There's something beyond. And what is it? And then we're led to whatever teaching is right for us at that time. And of course, we know there are hundreds and hundreds of teachings. This isn't just the one way. And once we're awake to that, we could actually say, show me what my destiny is, show me what my soul came here to do. But I would take it one step further and I would say, please use me, which I wouldn't have said that years ago. The thought of that universal energy, that spiritual power using me was something that I didn't trust, because I thought it would take me along a path that I did not want to go on. And I'd end up poverty stricken or, you know, without anything at all. I've had moments in my life where that has happened, funnily enough, because it's like what you resist persists. But each time I've been led back onto the path and eventually just surrendered and said, okay, let this presence within me that knows the way, this inner teacher, this higher guidance, it knows far better than my personality. Not that I'm dishonoring the personality. I think we need it, but we need it for that energy to use, because then the true teacher can come through and say, right, this is where you need to be. And we don't need to know the end product. We can just tune in and say, show me the next step. The human mind wants to know the end product. You know, how can I get there where I intend to go, like the small self? But the higher self knows where it's going. It knows where we need to be. And if we can allow that to lead the way, it doesn't mean we don't have free will and we're not surrendering to some separate God in the sky. We're surrendering to the God within, not as a person, but as an energy and a vibration of love and wisdom. And that love and wisdom supports us on the journey. It incorporates the lessons that the soul needs to learn. So things don't always go as what we call smoothly from our perspective, because we only see the bottoms of the trees, if you like. The higher awareness, the inner teacher that is us on a higher level, is almost like the eagle that flies over the trees, over the forest, and can see the real pathway. So if we can allow that to happen, we can work alongside our personality, and that energy can flow through our personality and be used for the highest good. So that's what I mean by surrender. My prayer every day is, divine love, please use me.
Wonderful, thank you.
But years ago, I would never have said that. I would have said, stay out of my way. This is what I want to happen. And tried to steer it in that direction.
Yes. Well, it seems like you had quite a big messages, so to speak. Did you actually try to ignore them at the beginning? Did you actually think, no, this is not?
Well, in the beginning, all I could think about was being successful. Right. And I had my idea of what successful was. And obviously my inner teacher had another idea. Because I had lots of ups and downs with success, lots of ups and downs with money and finances, especially because that was something I was very attached to, that made you a success. Yes. You know? And, you know, I had ups and downs of earning lots of money and ups and downs of having nothing. So it was obviously a big lesson for me, because my value was tied up with so-called success. So I had to learn that that was not what made me valuable. So anything outside of me that I thought made me valuable, it's almost like I was tested. But I don't believe in a presence that tests us. I believe that what happens is the soul has a curriculum. We have this inner teacher, this higher awareness, this infinite intelligence that knows the way. And it's almost like it keeps steering us back to where we need to be if we're open to it.
Yes. Thank you so much. Wendy is writing, I would say that Heal Your Life book is a great starter. As you say, open the door, but Science of Mind takes it deeper.
Yes.
Would you confirm that?
Yes. If you can understand it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, if you don't just want to use it as a dope stopper.
Yes, exactly, because that is a big thick book. Somebody told me that they used it for their posture. So they practice lying on the Science of Mind book to correct their posture. But obviously I've gone back into the Science of Mind and not reread the whole thing because I had to concentrate on it for 3 years. But it now makes a lot more sense to me than it did then. But I also ignored the end of it, because what Ernest Holmes was saying, now I've told you how to use this universal power. Now I want to show you how to let it use you. And at that point, years ago, I shut the book because I didn't want to know that part. To surrender to that higher awareness was something that, you know, I would never thought that I would have done. But, you know, there were various things in my life that I almost had no choice.
Yes.
But I had to surrender. And I found that when I did, miracles would happen. I would get signs along the way, very clear signs about things. And, you know, some of them looked and felt very miraculous. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. Sometimes also in surrender, things don't unfold the way that you perhaps think they should. But I can always see afterwards why that didn't happen.
Yes.
And usually it's all about being attached to something, insisting that things turn out this way because you think that's the way it should go. And then you realize, wow, by that not happening, this led me to there, because if that had happened, I wouldn't be there. And so we see this great scheme of things, which from our position down into the forest where we can't see the pathway and everything that's unfolding, sometimes it looks like everything's gone wrong. But it actually is leading us to the higher step in our evolution.
Yes, thank you. May is writing, Louise Hay was my first introduction to metaphysics as well. And Mel says, I wonder where Christine would like to see, I wonder where Christine would like to see metaphysics in the next few years. What would you like to see it in the next few years?
Okay, well, I think it's already going, well, metaphysics actually incorporates many, many things. I mean, I've studied astrology, I've studied hand reading, I've studied numerology, you know, the gods and goddesses, all those things. So it's almost like I've had a kind of eclectic training, because I'm kind of open to everything. And all those things are under the umbrella of metaphysics.
Yes.
So I think what Mel is asking is perhaps the metaphysical society and the way that it's taught. But I think it's already going this way, because in the beginning, the teaching is oneness, even from the foundation. That's what's taught. Then we go on the journey. We go through all the psychological things, all the things, the wonderful journey of unfolding. We look at the psyche, we look at how that dovetails into our spiritual nature, what we're learning, the laws of the universe, how everything works from that level. And then the course, the practitioner course anyway, ends up with people like Joel Goldsmith and people that kind of teach this surrendering. And so I think that that will be the way that it goes.
Yes.
That people will realize that we need to go through that journey, but then we come to a place where we allow the universe to use us.
Right. Yes.
Mm.
Surrender.
Yes, but there's nothing wrong with anything else that goes along the pathway, because they're all part and parcel of our soul's evolution.
Thank you. Hello, Chiara. Chiara says hello. And Lucy is writing. Louise Hay was my introduction to metaphysics too. I later met Erica Brown, who ran the Science of Mind courses in Leicester and more recently in Bournemouth.
Yes.
Yes, I don't know that lady.
Erica was one of the people, I'm sure, who trained before me with Nona at the same time. But I think when I joined Nona for these classes, Erica had been there a bit longer than me.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going back, sometime to the mid-80s. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And Louise Hay was, thank God for Louise Hay, literally, because as I say, with that triangle, she expanded that base of the triangle.
Yes.
So then the other levels of consciousness will expand as well.
Yes. Yeah, I remember she was almost the first one that I associated with affirmations,
Yeah.
as far as I remember, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm.
She actually cured herself from cancer or something quite.
Yes, she said she did have cancer, and then I think she focused a lot on forgiveness. But there were people before her. There are other books like Emmett Fox. Metaphysics was quite big in England, but then all the teachers seemed to go to America. I don't know whether that was because America is renowned for being very open. They would all end up in Los Angeles somewhere or something where the community was perhaps more open and receptive. I mean, that isn't the case now, because here in the UK, there's a great openness. But, I'm looking at the 1930s and 40s and 50s, there were metaphysical teachers, but people didn't really understand the whole metaphysical concept. I remember when I started to present metaphysics, people thought that I was presenting physics.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And then they think, oh my gosh, it's too difficult for me even to try to understand what it's all about.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes, Louise Hay would open people up, and then people would start to look for, especially now everything's online, you look up metaphysics, you find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things.
Yes.
But it was not well known in the earlier days.
Yes. But in England, I remember when I had a metaphysical counseling session, and I was hooked. And I tell you why. It was amazing. I was going through a very challenging time, and there's something that the practitioner, she told me, and it was a phone conversation even. She told me this that really struck the chord. And I'd done other therapies before, conventional psychotherapy and counseling. And she said, there's a part of you, Luca, that is unfazed by all this. There's a part of you that is perfect and healthy. And if you can just tap into it, and then she led me through a meditation. And there and then something shifted. I mean, she brought in, and that's why I love metaphysical counseling, because other kind of normal conventional psychotherapy or psychology as such is so dry. I mean, it's so technical and only mental. It doesn't bring in the basic, the fundament of everything we truly are, our essence. And I mean, it's just amazing.
Yes.
But then this to say that then I thought, oh, I want to become, because from that session, I mean, literally from that one session, everything started to shift. It was just like, whoa. And yeah, I went on Google, and in England there was in America, like you said, there was plenty of American association, metaphysics called associations, like so many. And then I found Debbie. Hello, Debbie. At the School of Metaphysics, and the rest is history.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello, Mariella. Welcome. Hello. And Wendy, she's writing, show me the next step. I love that. Yeah, it is a very, very actually deep, simple, but very deep and profound truth. Show me, because the mind, as you say, wants to know the end.
Right. I've been using that request, if you like, for years and years, and I still use it today.
Yes.
I've changed the terminology a little bit. I now call it divine love. Show me the next step. I used to say infinite intelligence, which is the same thing. It's just that I feel more of a connection with it now. I'm more of a heart connection with that presence within me. And so I call it divine love. Divine love, show me the way. Make me an instrument of your light, your love, your peace, your inspiration. Bring into my life those people who will benefit from what I need to say and do. I leave it to you.
Thank you. And Marina is asking, I know little about metaphysical teachings. Are the higher chakras energies where you can tap into your soul's purpose?
I think they definitely come into it. And anything that involves the chakras is involving the whole of you. So to me, there's no chakra that's more important than another. The energy chakras lower down in the base of the spine and just a little bit further up, and then the solar plexus chakra in the middle of the chest, they're kind of the grounding energies, and they're the energies related to feelings, emotions, being connected, feeling at home in something, feeling at one. They're very much connected with that belonging. And then the other centers rise higher in awareness, but you need to have knowledge of the lower chakras as well, so that you're grounded at the same time, and you can then bring that awareness down into your everyday life.
Wow. Thank you.
Any study of the chakras is well worth studying.
Yes.
Because they will show you different aspects of your humanness and also the divine quality in the chakra as well.
Thank you. Wendy is writing, surrender is the biggie. What a blessing it is it when we arrive there?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And it's quite hard for us. As I say, a few years back, I would not have been interested in surrender. It's the last thing. I remember when I thought about it, and I thought, oh, what was that about? Why wasn't I into surrender? One of the reasons was I felt that I would not be governing my own life, because I felt that it was putting something in somebody else's hands, rather than the hands of my higher awareness that was me on a higher level. But I always remember going somewhere to see someone that was said to be a very wise person, and questioning my destiny in life, because I'm already on the path. But I wasn't quite sure. I think I was at a stage where things were looking a little bit tricky, and was I supposed to be on this path or not? So I went there, and asked him. And I remember being very annoyed because he did a prayer for me. And he said, if this be God's will for Christine, let it happen. If it isn't God's will, let her be led to something else. And I was quite mad at him. I was going, what's all this about God's will? You know, I want to do this. It's up to me to do it. And really now I understand that he was talking about if it was the will of the highest within her for her to have this pathway, then let it happen. That show her. If it isn't, almost like I had a plan and I didn't want anything to interfere with that plan. So when he started talking about if it's God's will, I got very annoyed.
Yeah. I want to decide.
Yeah.
Wow, Christine, we've got, can you believe it, about 4 minutes left.
Oh wow.
There's one more question. Mariella is asking, Christine, may I ask you which is the better satisfaction you received during your metaphysical teachings? Thanks.
Oh.
Your biggest.
I think seeing it grow from the beginning and marveling at it, seeing that there must have been a divine plan behind it. Because when I look back, it has been a step-by-step process and something that I had no idea where it would end up. And I didn't intend consciously for it to end up there. So I think that there was something, I would describe it as that presence had that plan all along. And it unfolded that plan. It just happened to be within me because it coincided with my pathway and the things that I had to know and learn and understand. And so the two were very much parallel, that as that training society unfolded, so did I.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you. It's almost that you understood that God, your higher self, and you actually were not the same thing.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Thank you. Now you got 2 minutes. I just would like for you to tell people, but I'll put your links on the comments. So if people wanted, could people reach out for you from if I leave your website address, and you do workshop as well, I guess.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
And can you tell us anything? Just you got 1 minute. And by the way, I thank you so much, Christine, and thanks everybody.
Thank you, Luca, and thank you everybody for their questions. Great questions.
And yes, somebody, Luce is writing, thank you, Christine. Needed to listen this today and just had a lovely moment. And Mariella says thank you as well. Marina says thank you. And can I ask you a big question myself? Because one more minute, because I love when you actually use and say a spiritual treatment. So would you just make one up for us? Just a really short one. Oh, Debbie says, so did we all evolve at the same time, metaphysical practitioner and teachers. Thank you both. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You want me to do a metaphysical treatment?
Yes.
Okay.
Even just a tiny short one.
So, okay, so I'm going to close my eyes. And if people want to close their eyes, that's fine. So I'm just going to close my eyes and take a breath and breathe from the light that resides within and all around us. And to know that that light is guiding each and every one of us, every step of the way. We only have to ask. And as our breathing slows down, and we just let go, we acknowledge that there is a presence, a beautiful power within us that knows the way. And it is leading and guiding us to where we need to be. And we're open and receptive to it on every level as it takes us on the journey that we are meant to take. And if we can surrender and trust that life is for us, that it knows where we need to be, we will get signs along the way, like a breadcrumb trail to take us to our destiny, so that we can be a beautiful instrument for that divine love within to express itself in wonderful ways through each and every one of us. To bless us and the world. So we become an instrument for this presence to use. Because this presence is not separate from us. It is who we are. We are love, we are peace, we are wisdom. And as we let go, the highest can flow through us, enhancing our life, and we can make a difference just by having this awareness. And as we go back to our breathing, once again breathing from the light, we unfold all of its qualities: love, peace, inspiration, joy, abundance, beauty, creativity. It's all there, just waiting to unfold in a way that is unique to each one of us. And so it is. We just take a moment to rest in the light. And then when you are ready, just gently open your eyes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone.